Hello friends, bienvenidos. My name is Jen, aka Jen Colo on social media, your local witchy friend and intuitive guide through the occult. As always, my lovely husband and co-host is David, aka Premier Pulls on social media.
Hi everyone. In today's episode, Jen explains apothecaries.
Welcome to the show. Grab a chair, make yourself at home. Jen's got stories to share. You'll never feel alone.
So before we get started, David has an exciting announcement.
I do. So this last weekend, I was talking to Genesis, and it's something that's kind of been on my mind, but I had an idea to start maybe some merch for the podcast, and we did it. So I designed some merch. It's kind of like a drop, I guess is the best way to put it. It's Mexican candy themed. So check it out. It is going to be on our link for Instagram. I guess we can start dropping it for every episode too. So if you're listening through Spotify or podcast, you should be able to click the link in the episode description. And it's also on our link tree. So I'm really excited. I thought they came out really well. What do you think, babe?
Yeah, I definitely think so. We worked on designing it together. We went back and forth, but I think they look really good. I'm excited to order my first shirt, and you ordered one without letting me know.
I did. Yeah, I think I just got a little too excited and I ordered one. As far as the pricing goes, we don't really set it. It kind of gives like a recommendation of like what it should be, and then we just click it. So there's like different prices for like different sizes or different styles. It's all kind of based on the website, but I'm really excited, and we already got an order. I don't want to call it out in case that person doesn't, wants to remain anonymous, but somebody other than me already ordered a t-shirt. So I'm really excited for that.
And I'm really excited. There's also a candle. It doesn't have any like magical properties because I can't charge it from our wholesaler, but it does have my logo, and when you can light it while listening to this episode and think of us.
Yeah, it has the moon phases though, so a little nod to our moon episode.
Yeah, definitely.
And speaking of back episodes this week, we haven't done that many episodes, but we're coming up on 20. But I think it finally happened where I was like, we were talking about something and I said, have we done an episode on this? And you're like, yup. And it was the manifestation one. I totally forgot. So really exciting. You also had your second in-person event this last weekend. How did it go?
Yes, it was very successful. I had 2 people pre-book, and then everyone else just filled up the rest of the time, just some walk-ins. So if you went and you weren't able to get a spot, my apologies. I've never had an event that hasn't sold out like in the beginning, but then it ended up selling out with walk-ins. I realized that now I do need to have like an assistant or something because I can't like explain like the wait time and the prices and stuff in the middle of a reading. So I'll take David with me next time.
I was going to say you have a co-host. And I would have stayed there, but I actually ended up going to the 49ers Packers game. We just got into football this year, so it was really cool to be able to go to a playoff game. Like the first year we started watching football, so that was wonderful. I think Mercy is a Packers fan, so I'm sorry, Mercy, they didn't go through, but it was super fun nonetheless. For anybody who is curious, we are Dolphins fans in this household, so fins up. But yeah, definitely for your next event, I will be there making sure that everybody knows about your services and pricing and things like that.
Yes, definitely.
Cool. All right, so getting into today's episode, apothecary. So I had to practice a few times how to say the word because it's a little bit of a tongue twister for me. But yeah, I saw we were at a shop. Shout out to Abracadabra, located in Merced. They had a little apothecary section, and I told Jen, I was like, hey, like, what is that? And then she kind of started giving me the spiel, and I said, whoa, actually, why don't we make an episode about it? So that's our life now. Anytime we see something interesting out there, we don't talk about it. We say, let's save it for the podcast. But I thought it was super interesting, so we kind of jumped that to the front of the line. Again, we have a lot of topics already lined up, but I thought it would be an interesting one. With that said, I told Genesis, like, hey, why don't we actually practice some apothecary. I don't know if that's the best way to say it. But long story short, you'll hear what apothecary is. But we are drinking some peppermint tea while we're doing this episode. And Genesis will tell us all about the metaphysical benefits of mint and peppermint, which is good because I was editing our episode last week and I sounded super fucking nasally. I was like, oh my gosh, how embarrassing. I listened to the episode and I was like, it sounded like I had my nose plugged the whole time. So hopefully this time I sound a little bit better, but now I'm a little conscious of like, oh my gosh, do I sound like a plugged, like, I don't know, stuffed animal or something? Because it was a little rough.
You sound okay. So yes, David is having a mint tea, and mint is good for protection, luck, healing, and love. I'm having an orange tea. It has associations with Gaia, which is the goddess of abundance, friendship, fertility, and love. So those are definitely things, specifically friendship, that I want to convey on this podcast.
So we did add Splenda to our teas. Does that negate any of the effects?
I'm calling in sugar from the universe, or sugar substitute.
We love Splenda. I think we've actually talked about it in our podcast. So shout out to Splenda again.
Yes, definitely.
But what is apothecary for those who don't know, including myself?
Yeah, so apothecary is just an old English term for a medical profession for someone who formulates and dispenses medicinal materials to physicians, surgeons, and patients. These were the OG pharmacies and the OG pharmacists. But when we got modern medicine, like in, pills and capsules and
suppositories.
shots, yeah, exactly, all that jazz. Then we started getting more modern pharmacies, and apothecaries sort of stayed like this mystical, old-timey thing. But it was really plant medicine. Before we had modern medicine, we had plant medicine. So it's just the OG pharmacy. That's what it is.
So kind of like alchemists, like they're today's modern days, like chemists.
Yeah, plant alchemy, if you want to think about it that way. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're usually associated with the occult because it's really magical to think about like manipulating herbs and just things that grow from Mother Nature to like things that can cure you, like a magical potion. Like, I think that's so cool.
Right. And I know a lot of our medical, maybe not a lot, but some of our biggest medical advancements have been, that just passing down knowledge from ancient civilizations who, well, thankfully, because of them, trial and error, we were able to modernize those ancient herbs and remedies, ancient barks and things like that. I know penicillin was discovered by accident, and it's just interesting how I think we can be very quick to be dismissive of like old treatments. However, that's what we had before,
It's just fascinating. Like, if you're on meds, that grapefruit can really mess with medication. And it's just like millions of dollars of R&D versus one grapefruit. Mm-hmm. Like, if you really think about it, just like, yeah, grapefruit, St. John's wort, like there are so many things that can be just as powerful as medicine. I'm not like anti-medicine, anti-vax by any means. It's just like interesting to think about.
And that is actually a good, just a little disclaimer. Like, we're not in this whole podcast, not just this episode, ever saying substitute what we're saying for medical advice or professional advice. But it's just good to consider where our things come from, right? Our modern commodities come from. I think I was talking to you about this last week, Genesis, where it's easy to get lost in like what we don't have. But modern day life has a lot of conveniences, right? Even from being able to have hot water to have purified water. We live in, I don't say the best time to be alive, but we were very fortunate.
Yeah, definitely. Few apothecaries exist today. There are some like hybrid or some brick and mortar stores, but the brick and mortar is more like LA, San Francisco. But at my pop-up last Saturday, I met Liz, 26-year-old businesswoman turned spiritualist and herbalist, and she has an apothecary, a mobile apothecary, Witchery. And she's really cool. She explained that she's neurodivergent and of Mexican heritage, so she has just like such a unique presence and inviting way to like explain what all of these herbs and remedies do. And yeah, she has a bunch of like butters and tinctures and oils. She doesn't have a physical location, but she is hustling up and down California to bring the magic of apothecaries to the people. Some of her like bestsellers and a lot of things she does help with like eczema, psoriasis, pain, allergies, and other ailments. But she also had some metaphysical oils, like for example, an intention oil, a grounding oil, and different moon phase oils. So I really appreciate when people can, do that a lot of people use a term like green witch because it's just so magical to be able to like convert all of these natural substances into things that can heal our body and spirit.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Great job, Liz. Shout out. I know it's not easy in today's day and age, especially against giant consumerism like Amazon or just people who have more resources, influencers who may have the platform that smaller influencers and just hustlers don't have. But it's great, seeing just the community grow. And yeah, we'll drop her Insta on this week's episode, and if you want to check her out, please go ahead and do so.
Yeah, so her Instagram, just to say it verbally, but we'll also put it in the description, is at hi.witchery on Instagram, or her website, hiwitchery.com. I was analyzing her money oil specifically, and I figured, I took a pretty good guess about what it was because I have some knowledge of some green witch stuff, and her money oil specifically uses rosemary, green aventurine, biodegradable glitter, cinnamon, bay leaves, and a secret abundance sigil, which is like a special drawing to bring in abundance. We've mentioned bay leaves and cinnamon before regarding abundance. Rosemary is also really good for protection and grounding, so you're able to push through barriers and make that money. Green aventurine is a crystal that can help bring in abundance, and the biodegradable glitter is just so much fun and brings in like that extra opulence to really make you like believe in your intention of how you're going to create abundance.
Nice. That's really cool. Yeah, I know we have talked about cinnamon before, which I think last week or 2 weeks ago you were having a cinnamon tea, and you started your new year with a cup of cinnamon, right? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Oh, cinnamon coffee. I can't do tea.
Oh.
I mean, I'm drinking tea right now. I'm very picky with my tea, but yeah, I did a cinnamon coffee and it was great.
Nice. And I haven't actually told you this, but you know how I've been telling you that I've been wanting to go to like Chinatown, whether it's San Francisco or LA. There are a couple things I want to get for myself that are like nerdy things. But one thing I did want to also check out is the tea shops, because I really like tea. I don't know too much about it, but that's one of those things I've been really wanting to get into recently, is like better tea. The tea we drink is just like the Lipton tea that comes in the bags. But I've heard, just through my very minimal research, that those are like the worst teas you can get. They're kind of basically the scraps of the tea world. And I've just seen a couple TikTokers who do, I forget what they're called, but they're like these tea balls that you can, like, the tea tastes way better and you can reuse them. So I want to see if I can get some of those and maybe speak to some people in Chinatown and see like what kind of teas they have, and at the same time just pick their brain about like what the benefits are or what they're used for.
Speaking of Chinatown, there's been like a TikTok trend of going to like the Chinese herbal doctor, and just seeing what they recommend for you based on like just their analysis of you. They test some pressure points and stuff. And that just goes to show that like herbalism is any magic period, but like especially herbalism is going to have a cultural lens. There are probably recommendations and variations from culture to culture for sure.
Just a little Easter egg, something about me. My favorite show of all time is King of the Hill. And when we were going to do this episode, I told Genesis I had to bring it up. But one of our favorite episodes, I got Genesis into King of the Hill, and like now she loves it too. But there's an episode called "The Witches of East Arlen," and they have a little, very very summarized narrative. Bobby Hill, like the main kid in the story, gets into witchcraft, so he starts like doing tarot, and he starts practicing magic, and he joins a coven. And in one of the scenes, he's at the grocery store with his like coven friends, and they're all kind of like D&D nerdy, like dungeon masters. So the setting is really funny, but they're looking at like the spices, and then the clerk comes up to them and says, "Hey boys, like, are you guys baking like a cake?" And then one of the guys snarkily says, like, "Yeah, a cake of tremendous power." But they're at the grocery store sourcing like spices. So it just reminded me of that. And that is one of my favorite shows. And that episode actually was one of the binders that brought this world together for Genesis and myself. Like, I think when she first started practicing, I said, "I need you to watch this episode," and we quote it nonstop. So if you're a big King of the Hill fan, like, I'm sure you know that episode. If not, I highly, highly recommend you watch this episode, and let us know your thoughts, because it's great.
Is King of the Hill still on Hulu?
It's on Hulu, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Please watch it, you guys. It is hilarious, and really, really good.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So I want to make sure that we've explained Apothecary. I think I have a general understanding. It's basically just the more traditional way of looking at herbs, and different tinctures and ancient ways of what would be medicine, both in the traditional sense of fixing physical ailments, but also spiritual ailments, correct?
Yeah.
Can we get a more pragmatic take on like what is usually well regarded, like this is for that, and like maybe what are some of the more popular things, and also maybe give the listeners like a couple of suggestions on how to like ingest it, so like during a tea or oil, where to put it, like maybe just some more pragmatic points about apothecary.
Yeah, just FYI, you don't always have to ingest it. Just working with it is just as powerful. So
like incense, if there's like an incense.
Yeah, like one time I was trying to do like an abundance bath. So I took a bath and I added like some sort of like bath salts, and then I added rice, and then I added basil, and I was like, I look like a big full bowl of pho right now.
Girl, that is interesting.
Or sorry, not rice, the rice water. But yeah. Ugh. Anyway, just an example. Or just like sprinkling the herb around you or on your candle. So you don't have to ingest it. But yeah, we'll just go through some of the things that I know. Rosemary, I've heard it is a good like substitute herb when you're like in a pinch and missing something else. It's very versatile, but rosemary is like mainly good for protection and grounding. And then cinnamon, abundance, bay leaves, basil, abundance. Orange peels, also good for abundance. Orange themselves, like the fruit, I've heard is also good for fertility and like fertility magic, just because of its associations with Gaia. Roses, of course, like self-love rituals, or just straight up love rituals. I'm trying to think of what else I know. I think cloves also protection. People used to use tomatoes for protection back in the day. So you know the little like knitted like why tomatoes in like sewing, for example, like yeah, why they're a pin cushion. It's because back in the day people used to believe that tomatoes absorb negative energy. So people would have tomatoes like over their mantle or their windowsill or something, but like they would decompose really quickly. So then people just ended up making like this stuffed animal tomato. And that was like the substitute. And then eventually people just kind of gave up that tradition and ended up using it as a pincushion. But like the scientific mundane reason is that like plates and stuff were like made of like lead, and then tomato like would react to it and like discolor
The
it.
acidity.
Yes. So people thought that was like magical.
Oh, interesting. What about like oils? I know, well, you have a shit ton of oils. Tell the people what oils are for.
But but the thing is, my oils are like blends.
Okay, well, still tell the people what the oils are for.
Okay.
Not you gatekeeping oils.
I'm not gatekeeping, but I don't know everything that's in them. They're just a blend that I buy, and I trust the person I buy them from.
Okay, but like what are some more generalized?
Yeah, I mean, lavender could be calming. I have a lavender oil to like calm down. I have myrrh to perk up like my psychic senses. I have a protection oil, several abundance oils. I also have a banishing oil. There's a difference between like protection and banishing. Protection is just like, I don't want like anything to cross my path that's negative, versus banishing is like, this specific thing needs to fuck off.
Mm-hmm.
I had a coworker once that I was like having beef with, and I used my banishing oil on my office door, and yeah, I will say that the visits were less and less from this annoying coworker.
You know what? We've talked about so many of your beefs on this podcast. You have beef with so-and-so cursed me, I lifted curses. At what point are we going to realize that maybe the problem is you and not the other people?
I'm a Leo, so never.
Am I the problem?
Am I the problem? No. But yeah, there's that. Technically, hot sauce is like an oil, and chili flakes are an oil. Some people use that in like hexing and revenge magic. Like if you want someone to learn a lesson.
Yeah.
So it bites them in the butt. It's spicy.
Oh.
I've also used that before.
So you also used hot sauce for...
And pepper flakes.
Oh my goodness.
And vinegar. Vinegar makes it, sour.
Oh my gosh. I don't know you anymore. You're so aggressive with the metaphysical stuff.
This was back in the day when people tried it. Now people try it and I turn the other cheek. But back in the day, I did not.
Back in the day was like 2 weeks ago, people.
No. It was 3-4 years ago.
Nice. Cool. Well, I think this is one of those episodes that might need a part 2 down the line, just because there's so much, right? It's such a generalized topic, but at least we kind of explained the basics and gave some basics. But I'm actually really fascinated by this one. Again, the skeptic in me doesn't really believe in the in the metaphysical part. I'm like, whatever. But the physical stuff, even as a placebo effect, because placebo effect has been proven to be effective, I think it's wonderful. I think it's very relevant to who we are as like humans specifically. Not only are we able to be so modernized because the evolution and the use of tools, but also just, you could kind of count those things as tools, right? Medicine is a tool that we've developed to prolong our life, to cure ailments, and it's just really cool that all that does stem from like the basic things around us, herbs, spices, even antivenom, right? The way we make antivenom is we take the venom from the animal, we slowly inject it. I think we inject it into horses and then take their blood and from there create the antivenom. That's how that works. So. Oh,
I did not know that.
Yeah, that's how it's synthesized. It's kind of rudimentary and it seems like it would be super high tech, but like no, it's some of the things, if you really look at them, is kind of wild, like how simple they are.
Oh, wow. And then fucking the one thing that we use all the time that I forgot to mention, Palo Santo.
Yeah, tell us about that.
Yeah, so Palo Santo is a wood that comes from South America that has like metaphysical properties when you burn it. It basically like cleanses a space. We've used it just because we like the smell of it, but I use it to cleanse all my stuff. Like when I got my golden $100 bill and my Archangel Raphael statue, I definitely made sure to cleanse those with Palo Santo smoke before coming inside on my altar.
Yeah, I really love how it smells. That's like, it's one of my favorite smells, and sometimes I'll just burn that or some incense. And it's kind of, it'll lead into our personal examples, but when I was a kid, I used to burn a lot of incense. Like, my mom would always buy me some or let me buy my own incense, and I would almost burn incense on the daily, not for any spiritual reasons, but I really just liked how it smelled.
That's funny because I did as a kid too, but then my mom would complain about her asthma being triggered, so I stopped doing that. But yeah, I loved incense as a kid too, actually. That's really funny.
Yeah, we need to burn more incense in our house. Well, we have a lot of artificial smells, but I think they smell good. Like, we have air fresheners and candles, but maybe try to go more like natural route and then do some investigating and see if there's any good properties on some good incense. So for my personal stories with Apothecary, I actually do have a few examples now that I wasn't ready for examples, but now that I kind of understand it more, my grandma was really big on stuff like that. And it's just, I guess, you just know, right, through ancient, like, not ancient, but like oral, what's it called? Oral tradition of like what works, what doesn't. But one thing that my grandma used to do, and I fucking hated it, and like, I've been offered to it as an adult, but I like now as an adult, I fully refuse. But she would do this thing where she would like heat up tomatillos. For those of you who don't know, they're kind of like green tomatoes. They're used to make green salsa. And then if you were sick, she would just like shove it down your throat and like wipe the back of your throat with them. And I guess that was supposed to help. It was horrible. I fucking like hated it. But I guess it has a lot of like healing properties. And so she swore by it. I remember, I think I'll have to ask them, but I think some of my cousins went through it. But like, yeah, no, I've been offered it as an adult, and I'm like, fuck that. Like, I'd rather be sick. It's really gross, and I did not like it, but it was one of those things that, you would do. I also know that olive oil is used a lot for like digestive issues as a laxative. That's why, I don't know if I think I told you, but when Starbucks came out with the Olivado, what's it called?
Oleatos.
Oleato. It was a combination of olive oil and coffee, and people were complaining. They're like, it's making me go to the bathroom. And it's like, yeah, that's two big things that'll make you go to the bathroom. So I thought that was interesting. So that's one thing I kind of grew up with. Another thing more recently, my mom she swears by putting coffee in my eyes. Not hot coffee. Let me be clear.
Oh God!
But if I have like allergies or my eyes are puffy, she's always trying to put coffee in them. I'm like, no, like I don't want coffee in my eyes. But she swears it's like it works.
So I actually tried it when I was with your mom.
Oh my God.
Okay, it wasn't like I use coffee as eye drops. No, it's just like you wipe your like lids and eyelashes, and it actually helped me. So, yeah. And it's not like coffee with other shit. It was just like straight up black coffee from like coffee grounds that were ground at the house. Like, it's not like a K-cup blend of all this shit. Like, it was just straight up coffee. But yeah, it helped me in a pinch. I didn't have allergy meds with me. I think I ran out or something.
When coffee, so interestingly enough, some things that I think are seen as like maybe not great do have some benefits. Coffee has a lot of antioxidants, so does green tea. Nicotine itself, actually, if like pure nicotine, it's very addictive. However, there's some preliminary studies that show that it has some positive effects on like brain protection, and to like help prevent or better increase the likelihood of like a lower Alzheimer's. So I'm not saying go smoke a pack or start vaping, but there are some studies that show that nicotine by itself is not as harmful as like, you know.
I laugh whenever I hear vaping because, especially with all the flavors, there's just this big ass cloud of like flavor, and I'm like, why so aggressive, strawberry cheesecake?
Yeah, and I used to vape. I really miss it. Like I don't for health reasons, but if it didn't have any health repercussions, it was always super relaxing. Like if I was stressed out, just taking a couple puffs of my vape was really nice. And then my mom again is swears by cigar smoke too. So I'll have to ask her, but there's something about like blowing cigar smoke that's can be very cleansing.
Yeah, I totally forgot. That's technically like herbalism too. And I think like Santeria and stuff has like a lot of traditions with like cigars and like blowing cigar smoke. Just it's just like Palo Santo smoke. Like,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
cleansing smoke. Yeah.
Yeah, and I like cigars. I actually went to a cigar shop a couple weeks ago, and I really really enjoy like the smell and the taste. So yeah, maybe it's like my own personal little apothecary experience.
Yeah, it could be.
What about you?
Yeah, I personally love two types of like witchy stores. I like my English speaking witches for like crystals and tarot decks and sort of like the more new age stuff, but I love botanicas because there they have more like specific like manifesting oil and specifically like I don't know, there are just some like good old staples like it's called like road opener or like I don't know. They're just some staples that botanicas have. But if I know what I want, my favorite place to get my herbs and my favorite apothecary is the Mexican grocery stores because spices there are so cheap in bulk.
Really?
Yes.
Didn't know that.
That is like a big thing going around like witch talk is like if you're not scared of going to the Mexican grocery store, that's where you could buy your cheapest spices in bulk. And it's true. When I know like I need this, like the bay leaves we have right now. Yeah, it's because I was doing an abundance ritual and I was like, oh, the Mexican store will definitely have like a big thing of it, you know?
So, well, I will say I think that's awesome. It's like a nice little hack. I also think it is important to support like your local apothecaries, your local botanicas, just because, again, I don't know how much longer they're going to stay afloat. And the nice thing is you can kind of talk to for the most part, the people that are knowledgeable about kind of what you're looking for. So obviously you're not going to roll up to like El Supermercado and be like, I'm looking for Bailey for a ritual. You know, they're going to be like, okay. But I mean, I think in a pinch, like you said, it's great, but I don't know. I mean, what do you think? You're kind of in that community.
Yeah, I mean, like not every store is going to have what you need, but let's say, yeah, you try like all the witchy stores, the botanicas, and like they just don't happen to have dry bay leaves.
Yeah.
I'd rather go to the Mexican store than like, you know, Whole Foods or something.
Of course, yeah.
That's more what I mean.
Yeah, awesome.
But if I don't know what I want or need and I need to ask, like I'm trying to evoke this, I would probably consult with an herbalist. Luckily now I know a few. But the first herbalist in this area that I met is my good friend Genevieve at Luna Beauty 952 on Instagram. She has a lot of experience with herbs for like transcendence, opening your mind, cleansing and healing your soul. She did my first limpia outside of the family. She did some Reiki energy work on me and like she's just so talented. And she has like a whole product line at this point. She was really busy in the winter. I was like, girl, what are you doing? But yeah, energy work and herbalism are her jam. And if you're in the 209 locally, if you need, you know, an herbalist, you can go to her or of course Liz at High Witchery. But yeah, I like Genevieve specifically. She just has like a bigger connection like to the earth and like I don't know, she's so great and she's just a really good friend to me.
Nice. There were two things that I was kind of holding off because I think they are part of Apothecary, but I just kind of want to get your take on them a little bit. First one, where does cannabis land? I mean, I know we kind of joke about it, but there are cultures who it's pivotal to their culture, and I'm sure cannabis is not something that sprung up overnight. Like, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, so I that's why like I trailed off because I was like, should I say this? But it's legal in California. So my friend Genevieve is really good at helping you like consult with like what type of cannabis is good for what, and that's like her plant medicine. But she also has other plant medicines, but like cannabis is a big thing. And I'm scared of it because the last time I did it recreationally, I thought I was gonna die. But no, I think it's great. I think it definitely has some healing powers, like both physically and spiritually. It's an herb just like any other herb.
Yeah, and I mean that's it. Kind of made its way into our well, now it's like a recreational thing, but it started as like a medicinal thing where there was a whole process, to go through getting your like medicinal license. And I know people took that as a joke, but it wasn't an herb that started yesterday, right? So I've always, especially with this episode, it's curious to think like back in the day when they discovered it, what type of healing properties or spiritual practices it had with rituals and things like that. So, but that definitely falls under apothecary, right?
Yeah, so if you want to work with like cannabis specifically, my friend Genevieve, really, really knowledgeable in that type of stuff.
Would be the one. Awesome. And another big one that I wanted to bring up for this episode too was garlic. I know garlic has so many properties, and in myth lore, it protects against vampires, and it's been known to like, well, I guess I don't know medically, not like in a modern sense, but back in the day it was used for like antiseptic, like different things. But what are your knowledge based on garlic?
Shout out Gilroy.
I know, right?
I'm not too sure actually. Let me look it up really quick. Yeah, associated with protection. Ancient Greeks use it to ward illness. I think it smells great. Physically, it can help with like digestive, circulatory, and respiratory benefits.
And anti-inflammatory, right?
Yeah. If I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've known for a while that garlic is a home remedy for anti-inflammatory issues.
Some people hang garlic over doors to repel negative or, just straight up evil energy. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Well, I think that was a good topic. I think there's so much more to discover, and I'm sure even like doing an episode on botanicas themselves would be a great episode. So, I'm really excited to learn more about this, and I would like, just like the aliens episode. Speaking of the aliens episode, and I'll probably save this for part 2, but some recent discoveries with aliens. I'm not going to spoil it because I do think we're going to be doing a part 2 on that episode, but this is another one that I want to do a part 2.
Like personal discoveries or
no. Let's just say
scientific.
Okay. Discovered something on other planets. So
I see what you're saying. Yeah, okay, yeah. I was like, you got abducted last night and you didn't tell me. No, you didn't take me with you.
I had my garlic up, so we're fine. But yeah, this community post, we'd really, really love to hear about your thoughts about the episode, and then also let us know if you know of any like home remedies or things that you like your culture celebrates or has an understanding of, because even though you explained that like you and I aren't experts on every meticulous thing regarding like herbs and remedies. So yeah, we really, really want to hear from the community on this one.
Yeah, and speaking of which, last community discussion post, Mozzie said, one time I was woken up by an old man and he was standing on my right side, and I literally sat up and watched him in disbelief, and he started to wither away to the point that he was just all bones while he lifted, and his left hand pointed to me. I rolled over my bed to the left and ran to Eric, which is her fiance and told him the whole thing. My heart was racing so hard and I had fearful jitters, not wanting to go back to the room until Eric made me go back to sleep. Can anyone tell me what this means? This was about 4 months ago and nothing bad has happened, so I don't know. To me, it sounds like night terrors.
Yeah, we didn't really talk about night terrors during our last episode, but we talked about dream interpretation for anybody who hasn't listened to last week's episode. But it does sound like maybe, and we don't know the whole story, might be worth following up, but like if there's any like unresolved issues that may need to be explored, that's your mind telling you like, hey, maybe you're not like in physical danger, but if there's something that you're uneasy about, really, really break down every aspect of the dream, right? Like you saw an old man, what does that mean? Does that mean there's like an elder in your life who you're worried about? Is it maybe you thinking about your future? Just breaking down each aspect and seeing kind of how that relates to your life, right?
Yeah. And eventually I feel like if you really rack your brain, nothing makes sense and it's reoccurring, then you might need to do like a cleanse on your house.
But she did say she's only had this dream one time, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I feel like you could probably analyze it and come to like the source of it for sure, if it only happened once.
Yeah. But I mean, it could be night terrors because it sounds like it was enough to like wake her up and there was physiological results, like her heart was beating. So that's not necessarily normal. Like there's nightmares where when you wake up in the morning you're like, oh shit, like last night was rough. But if they're to the extent where it's like waking you up and physiologically you're struggling, then
no, she said that she was awake and then she saw this. So night terrors, what it is
oh, I don't know if I caught that.
So night terrors, I don't know if we're on the same definition. Night terrors are like a disorder episode where your body is awake but your brain is still like in the sleep mode, so you're dreaming with your eyes open and you project like your dream to your real life. So you're basically tripping, but like tripping on some nightmares. So if I were to let's say I just woke up and I was having a night terror, I would be seeing you across from me, but like to the left, I could see the boogeyman. That's what a night terror is. So sometimes your brain and your body glitch out to where like you're awake.
Yes. Okay.
But you're not like your brain isn't awake.
Yeah. Okay, that makes more sense. Yeah. Well, like you said last time, right? Always explore them a day before the metaphysical. I'm curious, like if around that time you started maybe like a new medication or your body was maybe going through something or your stress level was super high. I know, like we mentioned in the past, like when my stress level is like through the roof, it does manifest itself in my sleep. So, we definitely reach out to us. We'd love to talk to you about it and maybe get some clarification. And it's good to talk to people because sometimes they see like a perspective you didn't. So, yeah, let's chat about it. It's super interesting. And I'm glad that our episode was able to stimulate a discussion regarding this because that's very interesting and intense. I would be fucking scared.
Yeah, no, night terrors they're called terror for a reason.
Yeah, for sure.
No questions this week, but that's okay.
And I think part of why we didn't have any questions is because nobody really knew what apothecary was. And next week's episode is kind of similar, so maybe we don't want to give everything away, but what is next week's episode and give us like maybe a more general breakdown. That way, if people have questions, they can ask.
Yeah. So next week's topic is familiars, which is a being supposedly attending and obeying a witch, often said to assume the form of an animal. So when you think of like Sabrina the Teenage Witch and how she had her black cat helping her, like that's a familiar. Some people claim like if they're doing witchcraft and stuff that they're animals. They can differentiate which one is just a pet and which one is actually a familiar.
Interesting. Maybe we might have Lucy, our special guest, join us next week. But okay, cool. And I guess we'll touch on it a little bit more. But if you have any questions, or even in the questions post, you're like, well, give me a little more info, let us know, and we can provide some clarification. But I don't want to ruin everything for next week because I have some questions, but I'll save them for next week.
Yeah, definitely.
And again, a reminder, we do have merch. I know that's what we started the episode again, but I'm really excited. And again, it's just a progression of the podcast. It's not actually something that anybody asked for, but I thought it would be fun to put out there. So please check it out. If you don't end up buying it, like, that's fine, but please at least just check it out and see what it looks like.
Yes, and remember, if you want to support this podcast, if you don't want merch, but you just want to support in the form of money, then our Linktree also has where you can sign up to donate through Spotify. And remember, my Instagram is Jen Kahlo, GenKahlo, and you'll find my Linktree in my bio. Or if you don't have Instagram and you would like to connect, you can email me, tarotwithgenesis@gmail.com.
Perfect.
Okay, remember, the magic within you makes the world a more beautiful place. Blessed be, and signing off.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.